Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey, have you grabbed your free Self-Love and Sweat monthly calendar yet? This calendar is so amazing. It comes right in your inbox every single month to help you have a little nugget of wisdom, a sweaty workout, a mindset activity, just a little something to help keep you focused and motivated and keep that momentum towards your goals. So every day when you get this calendar, you'll see a link that you can click that will lead to a podcast episode or a workout or something that will be very powerful and quick to read. And then you'll also see on the top left corner of every single day, there's a little checkbox in the calendar. And what that is that's for your one thing. You can choose one thing every month, or it can be the same, something that you want to implement, and make this something that you can easily implement, like daily meditation or getting a certain amount of steps or water, for example, and staying hydrated, and even taking your supplements. This can be something if you want to get more regular doing a particular habit and routine, you can choose what that checkbox means. So if you want your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly calendar delivered right to your inbox every month on the first of the month, go to lifelikelunden.com/calendar, fill out the form really quickly, and you will have your calendar in your inbox within a few short minutes. That's lifelikelunden, lifelikelunden.com/calendar. Go get yours for free and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited about today's conversation, all about what healing the inner child is and where to start. And I think this is going to be such a powerful conversation. I'm not doing it alone. I'm actually talking to Julie Ann Dawson is here with me today. She's an intuitive healer, master of multiple energy healing modalities, and CEO founder of Chakra. Although she is based in Los Angeles, she has provided profound healings and guidance to countless clients since founding her company in 2016. As a Reiki Master Teacher, she has been able to teach energy healing to equally as many, attuning approximately 300 new practitioners a year in 32 countries. As an intuitive healer, she provides healing and guidance by working closely with angels and channels messages during oracle card or energy healing sessions. Her other areas of expertise include being a certified crystal healer, sound healer, and hypnotherapist. Aside from spiritual education pursuits, she graduated magna cum laude from the University of Rhode Island with a Bachelor of Arts degree. In her free time, she practices Krav Maga, martial arts, acrylic painting, and continues to evolve her ever-expanding array of healing techniques, products, and services. Thank you so much for being here, Julie. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
I'm so excited to be here with you, and I really appreciate you having me on the show today. So thank you.
Yeah, this is so cool. I believe we connected because of Winnie. Is that right?
Yes, and Winnie is my acupuncturist, and I was, just watching some of her YouTube videos and, just browsing her content, and I came across you, and I was like, I need to connect with her. She seems great, so I had to reach out.
Yeah, and we love Winnie. Winnie's been on the podcast a couple times and has really provided a lot of, just love and healing to the show. We've really, really enjoyed her, and the listeners have given great feedback. And so when you reached out to me and I knew you were kind of in Winnie's circle, I was like, oh yeah, let's talk. And then I did some friendly Instagram stalking, and I loved all your content and stuff that you're putting out there. So I just want to dive right in because I think that the topic of healing the inner child has been so profound in my life. And I think that maybe those listening have heard of, let's say, the concept before, maybe participated in a program or maybe a retreat where that's been brought up or whatever. But I thought for our episode today, which you and I had talked about, was really diving into what healing the inner child is or means, like what's actually happening when we're doing that and why it's so important. So I just want to kind of start there. What is inner child work? And why do we need to be doing it?
Okay. Yep. I know this is a really loaded topic and we could probably talk about it all day, but I'll try and keep it nice and concise. So we all have an inner child of various stages that represent multiple points in our time in our childhood. So for example, from the ages of when we're newborns from 0 to about 10 years old, when our consciousness is developing, and even into, in my opinion, as a healer, into somewhat of our adult lives, our minds are very impressionable. And so what happens is we, as children, absorb everything in the world around us, including how people treat us and societal projections, which sometimes can program beliefs in our unconscious minds, whether it's positive or negative, in order for us to survive, and how we're learning how to survive in the world, how we soothe ourselves, and how we operate on a day-to-day basis. So, what we have learned as children really carries through to our present day, because this is how we see we're supposed to fit into the world, how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to react to things. And this is how directly we show up in the world, through our relationships and how we process emotions and approach, again, our everyday situations. So we all have had at some point something that has been either very uncomfortable or maybe even very traumatic as children or even as adults. And when we have a chance to dive into that and take a closer look at those parts of ourselves, or AKA our wounded inner child, we can then reparent ourselves to release any kind of behaviors or patterns that we learned as a child that are really not serving our greatest and highest good. And in order to create these new patterns that are more in alignment of what we really want to show up in our lives, and to fulfill our wants, our desires, our goals, and our needs on our life path.
Gosh, you are so well spoken on that. That was so wonderful. And I think what spoke to me the most, what you said, was reparent. That moment when we get to learn to reparent ourselves, because some of those wounded inner child wounds, let's say, can carry a lot of resentment and guilt or frustration or fear or anger towards, the parenting style or whatever that we received. And I think that has been the greatest gift that I feel like I've been able to give myself, is that reparenting, kind of being able to like self-soothe and nurture and love on, all versions, all parts of yourself, like you mentioned. And when I first got introduced to inner child work was in my early 20s, when I couldn't find a remedy for hormonal cystic acne. And I was trying everything. I was going to dermatologists. I was on and off birth control of all different forms. I would go and they would inject steroid. This was happening during a time where I was on camera a lot too. And so I would go to the dermatologist and they'd inject steroids into the cysts into my skin. And then my skin would go down for a day or half a day. And then I could put a shit ton of makeup on and film with the light directly in my face. And then you wouldn't see it anymore. Right. So I had, oh my gosh, I went through, so many different modalities. And then at one point I moved to Europe. So I was seeing doctors in America, also Austria and Germany. So I had the opportunity to explore, let's say, different, Western medicine modalities in a lot of different countries. And it wasn't until that I started working with a practitioner who just really, was talking a lot about, hormonal imbalances and the emotional component, the trauma component to some of this healing. And I just was at the point where I was like, I just want to learn and grow and I need to figure something out. And the current system that we're in, or the dermatologist doctors I've been working with, that's not serving me. And so I need to find a different solution. And so I didn't think it was going to be, I wasn't sure what I thought it was going to be, but I definitely don't think I thought it was going to be healing wounds from my childhood. And, but it was beautiful when that was, when that happened. And I think especially from my standpoint, I can speak from acne, it was a lot of gut issues related to kind of stress and fear. And in my family line, it was really you got to look a certain way. You got to look a certain way, be a certain way, and just make everything look perfect, right? And when I dug deeper into some of those stories and inner child work and things like that, it was really a gulp moment for me, because there is a lot of self-hate and that realm around acne, right? In this healing process. And here I am, thinking that you're that self-hate, not thinking that you're worthy, lack of confidence, right? Those are a lot of the stories that stem from my research and my journey of healing acne, right? But here I am thinking, oh my gosh, I'm the most confident person I know. I'm on camera all the time. That's not, what? And I think maybe people listening have had that moment where you're oh my gosh, that's me. And no, it's not. I got really kind of defensive and thought I don't think I'm, all these things. But lo and behold, in that reparenting process, I got to see, there are some things stuck way back in the garden. In my mind, the conscious mind and subconscious is like a garden. That's what I visualize. There's some areas that are just ripped in weeds and just haven't been cultivated and are dry, and just that you haven't even noticed, you haven't even gone there. And I share that because now I know the beauty of going there. Now I know now I know just kind of the power of the healing I was able to experience. And now, not only is my skin on the outside looking great, but I didn't realize how great I could feel on the inside too. And what it could feel like to really feel real confidence, not just be able to be good in front of the camera, but to feel confident as me in any sense of the word, no camera involved or not, And so that was such a beautiful, beautiful healing journey. And so, I think maybe we can talk a little bit about how it doesn't have to really be I didn't think I was in emotional trauma. I just had acne all over my face that was oozing. Like I had no eyebrows. Like it was very clear something was happening, but it wasn't like you mentioned, maybe something traumatic or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, it was very like, a hard right? I would have gone like maybe straight into the left. And this modality was kind of like a hard right for what I thought was really happening physically on my skin. Do you see healing like that in your practice or in what you're doing with people, like not realizing they need that inner child work and all of a sudden it's helping things that they never imagined were even emotional? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to, manifestation. I know this is a little bit more esoteric in nature with that topic, but like, oh, why can't I find the right partner? Or how come I can't manifest abundance? So like I'm barely making ends meet. And some of those like programs can go back to your relationships with your parents. So it's not always like something extremely traumatic happened to you. It could be how you saw relationships and how like your family interacted with other people in the world. It could be something that you saw on TV that you felt pulled to. It could literally have been anything like that. And looking back on it as an adult, you could be like, oh, why was I so impressioned by that? But then it shaped all these different beliefs, right? So, I guess I'll use an example, like a personal example, since you were so open to sharing about your story. I was abused by my father and multiple different types of abuse. And I got into college and I also started developing cystic acne. So I can relate 100%. And, then in my world, I was having a lot of trouble with like, um, I was working so many different types of jobs, but I was making no money. Like I was so poor, and I was like, "What is happening in my life?" And then I started doing some of this work, and I realized, oh, my parents use words like this, like money comes in as fast as it goes out. Just it could be literally something like that, and that is what stores in your unconscious brain. This is how things are. And so that energetic imprint lives within us, and it's imprinted in our cells, and we have that cellular memory. So that is how our thoughts and our beliefs is how things end up showing up in our reality. So when we're able to assess like, hey, this is what's really going on, then you can kind of backtrack and take those steps back, like, okay, well, what was my relationship like with like my father and my mother, or like, and just like track backwards, I think would be one of the easiest approaches to this, or maybe even trying some journaling and seeing if you can find the root. And that's how I do the healing work is on clients, is finding the actual root of the issue. And I do this in Reiki sessions as well. But that is really important to find the root, because once you pluck the issue from the root, then I can clear and help my clients clear everything energetically up until the present moment. And then you can reprogram yourself or reparent yourself to what is true for you and what you want to have as your present reality. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's hard, or maybe you're better at explaining this, but it's hard, I think, to explain this like plucking of the root and that release and that love, and somehow even like a little humor-ish, if you will. Like sometimes there's certain things where I'm like, oh, it was so ingrained. But then when I noticed it, it was just kind of more like, oh, like, yeah, of course, to be able to pluck that root. Could we dive just a little bit deeper into that? Like, how do you find the root in a Reiki session, let's say, if you will, or like, and maybe you have a better description of when you pluck it out, kind of that feeling or that relief, and also the necessary nurturing that comes with the pluck, let's say.
Okay, yeah. So, well, I am a psychic, and so when I'm working with a client, sometimes, and I work a lot with angels and my client's high self to actually just show me where the initial injury or, trauma happened, and working with your inner child. So sometimes I'm shown it clairvoyantly. And sometimes I'm able to just figure it out through like my own intuition by asking a series of questions to my clients, like, okay, when did you first start noticing this? What was your relationship like with your parents? Talk to me a little bit about your upbringing. Where did you grow up? And figuring out those types of like demographics too. So that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is how I go about providing that healing space for them is through Reiki. So like once you remove the the wound, it's anytime you're healing, it's important to, when you're removing something, to fill it back in. And you don't always have to be a Reiki Master Teacher to do this. If you're listening to this podcast, you can do this work at home yourself. And by giving back yourself that love or whatever it was that was lost. And I'm going like this because I feel like my guides are here and they're like, you can just place your hands over your heart, and it's like you're giving that love back to yourself. And you have actually chakras in your palms. And so when you're the energy that comes out of your palms, you're putting it over your heart, like you're giving back to yourself. So once you find the root and you're ready to release it, it could be something as simple as like, thank you for bringing this to my awareness. And you could say this out loud or to yourself in a meditation. Thank you for bringing this to my awareness. I am ready to retire the story that no longer serves me. And talk to your body, talk to your cells. Like I am ready to release this fully now. And then put your hands over your heart. Maybe take a really nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And maybe just sit there for a few minutes and invite in your inner child. And, it's okay if you can't clairvoyantly see your inner child, or just having the intention alone, inviting your inner child to come into that space and into your heart is really healing in itself. And like, I got you. You're literally putting your hands on your heart, like, I got you, because you do. You are your best and most, you're your best advocate. Right. So, and also journaling can be very, very powerful too. Sometimes when you journal, a lot of people can do automatic writing, or they'll just like, if you have a hard time journaling, be like, I don't know what to write. And then eventually stuff will start to come up. So that is one way that you can also identify any kind of blocks or unconscious programming, inner child wounding. So journaling can be very effective in that way. If just tracing back in your timeline doesn't work for you, there's also alternative ways.
Okay, we have to take a quick break for me to tell you about the Dew Skin Tinted Moisturizer from Beauty Counter. I am obsessed with it. In fact, I think obsessed is kind of an understatement because I've been using it every single day for like the last 4 months. It's the perfect makeup but no makeup kind of in-between moisturizer with 20 SPF. It has that good see-through hydrating coverage, but it doesn't have full coverage like a foundation. I have been loving it. It feels so good. It makes my morning routine so much faster and simpler, and I feel so much more alive and awake and rejuvenated throughout the day. And honestly, it helps remind me to put on sunscreen daily on my face, because if my moisturizer doesn't have SPF in it, I'm probably not going to put SPF on my skin in the morning. Not because I don't want to. It's just like sometimes I forget all the steps. So I love that I can combine moisturizer with coverage and SPF all inside the Dew Tinted Moisturizer. So I use a number 4. You're going to want to choose a number that works best for your skin tone. But for those of you that, have followed me on Instagram, you can see my skin tone. You can kind of compare a little bit, and you can also take a skin quiz to figure out exactly what coverage, color, tint works best for you. So you'll be able to do that in case you want a little bit more help. So how do you get this product and how do you get it at a discount? I know you're wondering. So the code is clean for all 20 at checkout for 20% off your entire first purchase at Beauty Counter. And you're going to shop at beautycounter.com/London Souza. That's Beauty Counter, BeautyCounter.com/LUNDENSOUZA. And you can shop there using your code CLEANFORALL20. That's CLEANFORALL20 for 20% off at checkout for your first purchase. So go ahead and grab that. It's perfect for your everyday morning hydrating, sun protecting, rejuvenating, brightening skincare routine. You're going to love it. Grab yours today. Yeah, cool. I do a lot of work with NLP. I'm a master NLP practitioner. And so you talked a lot about maybe like sensing and intuition and psychic abilities and things like that. And for me, it's just asking questions. It's asking questions to get people to, release some of these things. And it's sometimes when we got it, it's like, aha, right? They know and we know right at the moment. It's like, okay, that's something we can work with. And then there's other structures and things that we can move through. So I think that's cool to see how there's different ways to the same thing, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that's really beautiful. Okay, so I want to share a root story with you, and maybe I think this is this is actually a pretty big deal because it's surrounding money. And you brought up money and mindset, and I think a lot of stuff surrounding money comes from our childhood and the way that we were raised and what we heard about money and what we heard about people who were maybe had money or didn't have money. Mm-hmm. And so when I moved back from Austria to America in 2020, I had lived my whole 20s in Europe. So the whole system from running my business, taxes, everything was just different. I was switching jobs, doing more of my thing online. And I hired she was my client at first. And then she's a financial wellness coach. So I was like, girl, I need you. I need you to help me with taxes. I don't know anything about credit in America, all these things, right? So I was like, I need your help. So when I started coming back and then making an income, whatever, we started, just started learning about different things for taxes and write-offs and just all this stuff. And so when I was deciding, okay, how to separate my money or what to do, she had suggested, she's like, hey, you had just moved back, until you decide on banks or whatever, just get some envelopes and put them with what it's for and save your cash, whatever. Then we'll make you separate bank accounts. We'll separate things out like this, whatever. Mm-hmm. And immediately to my brain came this moment where my mom was telling me this story, and I'm sure my mom might be listening. So I love you, Mom. And this is just a beautiful example of how we don't even realize what we're implanting or what might be implanted and how playful and fun it can really be. But she had told me about when her and my dad went on their honeymoon. They grew up very different. My dad was in a very big family and not as much, I don't want to say, they were very fine, but my mom grew up in a very well-off family. So very different, dynamics, right? Mm-hmm. So my mom was like, oh, when me and your dad went on our honeymoon, he had everything in envelopes for horseback riding and parasailing. And I thought that was so weird, right? So she told me that as a kid, I heard her say it, right? And then she was just maybe I don't think she was telling maybe me directly, but I think she was maybe saying it to someone just to describe how my dad is with his organization and he's a teacher. So it's just whatever, right? So in my mind, when she told me to get envelopes, I was like, oh my gosh, that's weird, right? But that's been the most helpful thing ever because my whole life, I just had everything all in maybe one bank account or whatever. But for me, and just like my dad, the compartmentalization of it is so helpful to be this is this, to not have to continuously, I don't know, do the math. Okay, this is the lump sum, but this is for my new computer. This is for your retirement. This is whatever, And I just remember being oh my gosh. And then one time I had my financial wellness coach over to our house to record a podcast, and my mom was there. And another girl was there too, selling these booklets that have envelopes in them. And she uses them for her family and for kids, and she sells them. So me, my financial wellness coach, and this girl who makes these binders are at my parents' house. We're recording a podcast that day. And my mom comes in and she's like, oh my gosh, when we went on our vacation, he put everything in envelopes like this too. And I just thought that was so weird, right? She wasn't put anyone down, right? It was just her model of the world. But in my mind, separation of money was weird, but I didn't know that. It just, as soon as I realized that and then started doing it the same way as my dad, it was my mind, it was perfect. I haven't ever been this financially stable in my life. Just everything was great because I unlocked a modality that totally would work for me. It works for my dad, but for some reason, this like weird thing, you know what I mean? It just like came out. And so I just thought it was so funny. And I just had a moment to like reparent myself and be like, that's not weird. That's how your brain works. Like my brain, has these file cabinets, if you will, in terms of like my visualization of what it looks like. And so it was so helpful to use something like that. And so would that be like a good example or an example of a root story and maybe something that could have interfered in our lives when it comes to money?
Oh, yes, 100%. 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was just such a, just an intro. And I think, it can be just as playful, right? I could have been pissed. I could have been like, that's so no wonder I struggled with finances because you said it was weird. But it's like, in her model of the world, it was, and it was just kind of different than what she was exposed to. And weird was the word that she chose to describe something that she wasn't used to. And if I decided that I was weird because I did it, well, that's my fault, and that's where I get to like grow up a little bit. So how do you help when someone discovers like a root, for example, and you were so like open to share something that, when you have the awareness and really where it came from, how do you help people maybe release that? Or maybe some people would call that forgiveness or maybe some integration. How do we, once we discover this root cause, pluck it? Maybe we laugh and chuckle a little bit like I did. Maybe there's a lot of tears and a lot of emotions or things that might come up. How do we work with that?
Yeah, definitely. This is a multi-part answer. So I think first and foremost is allowing yourself to have the space and container to feel any kind of emotions that do come up. For some people, it might be humor. Other people, you might need to cry. And so that all of those things are good when you're feeling some kind of emotion, because no matter if you're laughing or crying, you're actually having an energetic release, an actual physical release. So any kind of emotion that you're feeling, just allow yourself to feel it come up. And with that said, it's very important to allow yourself to have space to have grace and compassion for yourself coming from a non-judgment place, because this is not your fault. And you don't have any judgment or blame on yourself for any of this. And then moving forward, it's like, tapping into your heart and being able to reparent yourself by speaking out louder to yourself, like, what is it that you really want in this lifetime? And really feeling into your heart from a place of like joy and compassion, and using that as your next stepping stone. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I think what you just said is like, what do you really want in this life? And I think that's a wonderful like journal prompt, or just like way just like, I want, to be, I don't know, you can just start writing from that space. And I know that journaling, especially written exposure therapy, I don't know if you've heard of that before, but like really writing through some, traumatic events and then being able to write the story as what it means moving forward and what I'm going to make it mean because it's part of my story has been so helpful. Breath work, so helpful. Meditation, super helpful. And I think those are the things that we get to pull in as part of our toolbox, because I come from a fitness background. So people are very much, aware of like, okay, weekly workouts and like 4 times a week and like meal prep and like whatevs. But that was one of the reasons why I really made that hard right out of fitness only, was because I'm like, yeah, there's other tools that many times are more valuable than some of the, mainstream fitness nutrition type of tools. And so I've been loving expanding my tool belt with things like journaling and breath work and meditation. Those are like my 3 faves. Do you have any other modalities that you feel like just have to be part of your like rituals and routines when it comes to healing and your continuous, purpose-driven journey, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage people to try something at least more than once, because you never know if you're going to like it. And I say the same with food. So you never
taste
know.
It again.
You could just be having an off day, but you never know if you're going to really like something unless you try it twice at least. So I also journal, I do meditation, and kind of circling back there with the, I do have a Healing the Inner Child workshop. Cool. And it does incorporate what I call like a trifecta of healing. It's a guided meditation, with remote Reiki. In the workshop, it has journal prompts. So it comes with a whole journal. It's all digital, so you can just instantly download it and just start getting to it if you want. And what for my own personal healing journey, Reiki has been, oh my gosh, literally a lifesaver. I have worked through so much with being able to channel Reiki, and I also use other energy healing techniques as well. But that has been so amazing to just really feel like I'm coming back into myself, having overcome a lot of like traumatic experiences in my own life. And that has really gotten me to, I think, a place of really being me again and living my life authentically with who I am. And so that's definitely something that I feel I need to do. Maybe not every day. I do it every day, either like for clients or like myself. But some days I just feel like, oh, I feel pretty good. Maybe I can just do like some breath work or a meditation. But I will say breath work is also incredibly powerful. I had a huge energetic release the first time I ever tried breath work. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Lunden, but I wasn't breathing correctly. I was in a big workshop with a lot of people, and I ended up with the lobster claws, like the little lobster hands. It's like when you get cramped up and then your hands seize up into this claw-like motion with your fingers. And I was like, what is happening to me? Oh my God. And I'm crying. I don't know what's going on. But then I had a worker, a facilitator come over and like help me through it. And, I had no idea what was coming up, but all that energy was stored in my body. So whether you're doing Reiki or meditation, journaling, breath work, or for some people, it might be like getting on the treadmill or doing yoga, like that is also a practice of like being able to release that energy from your body and getting it out of your body, because that's what's also incredibly important to remain connected and have that connection with your mind, your body, and your spirit, to allow things that are not you to just be released from your body that don't serve you. Because that's what can cause, I say, dis-ease, because it's stuff that, you're carrying that can cause some potential issues down the line. So get yourself moving, even if it's a pen to paper or doing yoga, lifting weights. It could be Reiki, it could be journaling. Just try all sorts of things and see what works best for you.
Yeah, I think I totally agree there with trying it multiple times, because it takes a little bit, I think, to really feel the effects of it. And now some mornings I wake up and I'm like, oh, I really need to journal. Like I know the feeling of that release, and I know when I might need that. So it's nice when you get more well acquainted with your tools, so you know when to use them a little bit better. And I'm so excited that you also have some awesome tools that our listeners and myself get a chance to use and try. And so I'm so grateful for your time today. And I know you have, like a little something for our listeners. And I would love to hear about that and how they can connect with you. And then also where they can find, more from you, whether it's on social media or where you hang out.
Yeah, definitely. I believe you have the coupon code if you want to put that in the show notes. I think it was...
the coupon code is Self Love and Sweat Podcast. Is there an ampersand in there? The and is part of the code? Okay, cool. I'll put that in there. Yep. Self Love and the and symbol, Sweat Podcast, for 20% off any order to the Chakra shop. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So that's good for everything in my online store except for gift cards. So that's good for, if you want to take the inner child healing workshop, that's available. All of the workshops, any of the instant downloadable like cheat sheets. I have fun, amazing meditations on there. One's for abundance, one's for, opening your heart chakra, and certifications. So hope you guys like it. And I'm always here. If you have any questions, I can be found at chakratoya.com, CHAKRATOYA.com. And I'm just at Chakratoya on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all of the things.
All the places, Chakra. I love that. Thank you so much. And I want to highlight what you said too about there's stuff that we can take for healing. And then there's also certifications for healers. So for those of you listening, you can use that code for either. So whether you're looking for some inner healing, or if there's any coaches and healers listening that want to up-level some of their practices and modalities, then check that out. Julie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you so much. I feel like we could talk on a lot of different things for hours. So I would love to have you back. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Lunden.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.